Picture this. It's a random Tuesday night. You're sitting on your couch, phone in your hand, and you decide to check your bank account. Not because you want to, but because you kind of have to. And the numbers look something like this. You've got $2,300 on one credit card, $4,800, $12,000 in student loans. And every single month, you make the same promise to yourself. Okay, this month I'm finally going to make progress. But then the month ends, and somehow the balance barely moved. You paid $300 towards your credit card, and the balance only dropped $120. And you're sitting there thinking, how is that even possible? And then, someone online says something incredibly helpful like, just earn more money. Which is great advice, except that most people can't magically double their income tomorrow. So, the real question becomes this. How do you get out of debt faster with the income you already have? Because here's the thing, most people believe the only way out of debt is making more money. But what most people don't realize is that the speed at which you get out of debt is usually determined by math and psychology, not income. And once you understand how those two forces work together, you can start eliminating debt much faster than you think. My name is James Harrington, and I spend way too much time thinking about getting out of debt. If you're someone who is struggling to get out of debt, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Because today, we're going to break down the exact strategies that help people get out of debt years faster without earning a single extra dollar. And some of these might go completely against what you've been told your entire life. Here's the thing. Debt doesn't just trap people because of the amount they owe. It traps people because of how interest works. According to the Federal Reserve, the average credit card interest rate is now around 20% APR, which means if you owe $5,000, the interest alone costs you about $1,000 per year. That's $83 per month. And this is where it gets really interesting. If you make a $150 monthly payment, almost half of that payment disappears into interest. So, even though you're trying to do the right thing, the system is quietly working against you. And psychologically, that creates something incredibly dangerous. Hopelessness. Because when people don't see progress, they stop trying. Which is why so many people stay in debt for 10, 15, sometimes 20 years. But here's what most people don't realize. The problem usually isn't how much money you're paying. It's how you're applying that money. The first strategy, focus your firepower. Most people with multiple debts do something that feels responsible. They spread their extra payments across all their debts. So, if they have 3 credit cards, they might pay $150 on one, $120 on another, $80 on the third. Which sounds logical, but mathematically, it's incredibly inefficient. Because debt behaves a lot like trying to put out 3 fires at once with a garden hose. You spray a little water on each fire, but none of them actually go out. Instead, the most effective strategy is something called the debt avalanche method, and it's incredibly simple. You pay the minimum payment on every debt, and then you put every extra dollar toward the debt with the highest interest rate. Let's look at a quick example. Imagine you have credit card A, $3,000 at 24% interest. Credit card B, $4,000 at 18% interest. Credit card C, $2,000 at 15% interest. If you have $400 per month to pay toward debt, you would pay the minimums on B and C and throw everything else at card A because that card is burning the most money every single day. Once card A is gone, you roll that entire payment onto card B and suddenly something really powerful happens. Your debt payoff momentum explodes. What used to be a $150 payment might suddenly become $350 or $400, which is why people using this strategy often eliminate debt years earlier than expected. But psychology changes everything. Now here's where things get interesting. Because mathematically, the avalanche method is the fastest. But psychologically, it's not always the easiest. There's another strategy called the debt snowball method, and it works a little differently. Instead of focusing on interest rates, you focus on the smallest balance first. So, imagine you have $600 medical bill, $3,000 credit card, $8,000 loan. Instead of attacking the highest interest rate, you eliminate the $600 balance first. Why? Because small wins create motivation. And motivation is one of the most powerful financial tools that exists. In fact, research from Harvard Business School found that people using the snowball method were more likely to stick with their debt payoff plan even though it's slightly less efficient mathematically. And that's important, because the best strategy is not the one that saves the most money on paper. It's the one you'll actually follow through on. The hidden trick that accelerates everything. Now you might be thinking, okay, but I still don't have extra money to throw at debt. And look, that's fair. But here's what most people don't realize. The average household wastes about $314 per month on subscriptions they barely use. That number comes from a study by C+R Research. Think about that for a second. Streaming services, gym memberships, apps, random monthly charges. And most people don't even notice them anymore. Now imagine redirecting just $200 of that toward debt payments. Let's say you have $8,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest. If you only make minimum payments, it could take over 20 years to pay off. But if you add $200 extra per month, you could eliminate that same debt in about 3 years. Same income, same lifestyle, just a different direction for the money. And that's the key idea here. Getting out of debt faster isn't always about earning more. It's about redirecting money that already exists. The psychological trap that keeps people broke. Now there's another problem that almost nobody talks about, and it's something called lifestyle normalization. Here's what that means. Every time people get a little financial breathing room, they accidentally increase their spending. Pay off a credit card? Great. Now there's room for a new one. Get a raise? Suddenly, the apartment upgrade seems reasonable. This is exactly why many people who are in 6 figures are still buried in debt. Because income alone doesn't fix spending habits. And this is where discipline becomes incredibly important. Because the real trick to escaping debt is not replacing it with new debt. That sounds obvious, but behaviorally, it's surprisingly hard. The strategy that changes everything. So, here's a simple system that works incredibly well. Step 1. Choose either the Avalanche or Snowball strategy. Step 2. Audit every monthly expense and redirect at least $100 or $300 toward debt. Step 3. Once a debt is paid off, do not reduce your monthly payment. Instead, roll that payment onto the next debt. This creates something called payment stacking, and it's incredibly powerful. Because over time, your debt payments start snowballing into massive amounts. Someone who started with a $150 payment might eventually be putting $700 per month toward their final debt. Not because they earned more, but because they kept stacking their payments. And suddenly, what looked like a 10-year problem becomes a 3 to 4 year solution. The truth about getting out of debt. Look, getting out of debt is not glamorous. It's not exciting. There's no viral TikTok hack. It's mostly just boring, consistent decisions repeated over time. But here's what most people don't realize. Debt doesn't just cost you money. It costs you freedom. Freedom to leave a job you hate. Freedom to take risks. Freedom to build wealth. And the moment that last debt payment disappears, something really strange happens. All the money that used to go toward debt is suddenly available to build your future. Investments, savings, opportunities, and that's when the financial game finally starts working in your favor. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed by debt right now, just remember this. You don't have to solve the entire problem today. You just have to start moving in the right direction. Pick one strategy, redirect one payment, eliminate one balance, and then repeat that process until the system starts working for you. Because getting out of debt isn't about one big breakthrough. It's about hundreds of small decisions that slowly change your financial life. And if you want to learn more about how to build wealth, escape debt, and take control of your money, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Because on this channel, we spend a lot of time talking about the financial decisions that quietly determine your entire future.